At my wedding, instead of giving a toast, my mother-in-law said, "It's nice your parents gave you an apartment, but you should transfer it to my son. In our family, only men own property. And if you dare say no, there will be a divorce." My husband just nodded. Then my mom took the microphone and said only 2 words. But before I continue, how are you doing? Did you subscribe and give the channel a like? Enjoy the story. When Kirill proposed to me by the lake in Gorky Park, I had no idea what was coming. Honestly, I thought I'd finally met a good man. He had a job, didn't drink, and his mom seemed normal. I was so wrong. But let's start from the beginning. My name is Natasha. I'm 28 and I work as a manager at a construction company. I'm not a beauty queen, but not ugly either. Just a regular girl with a strong personality. And I don't sugarcoat things. If something's wrong, I say it. My parents are amazing. My dad's an engineer at a factory and my mom teaches math. We live in a small 3-room apartment at the edge of the city, but it's ours. Dad saved money his whole life and mom tutored students part-time. They worked hard to buy that apartment. When I turned 25, they said, "We saved all this, so you'd have your own place." Then Kirill came into my life about a year ago. We met at a friend's company party. He's a vet, makes good money, tall, slim, with smart eyes behind glasses. He took me on nice dates, flowers, restaurants, theater. Mom liked him right away. She said, "He seems like a good guy." But his mom, something was off. Her name is Valentina Sergeyevna. She's about 50 and works as a chief accountant. She dresses fancy, drives a nice car, but gave me a weird feeling. From the first meeting, I didn't like her. She smiled, but her eyes were cold. She kept watching me, how I dressed, how I talked, what kind of bag I had. She asked sweetly, "Natasha, what kind of apartment do you have? Is it big? Are the documents all ready?" Back then, I thought she just wanted to know where her son would live. Nothing strange, right? Then we started planning the wedding, about 3 months before the big day. That's when the trouble really began. The first red flag? Valentina Sergeyevna didn't like my idea of a simple wedding. "What do you mean by a modest wedding?" She threw up her hands. "Kirill is my only son. The wedding should be grand." I tried to explain that my parents aren't rich, and I didn't want to take loans for just one day. But she wouldn't listen. "We'll help," she said. "We know a restaurant owner. He'll give us a discount." Kirill stayed quiet. He was almost always silent when his mom spoke strongly, even though he could argue with me over small things. Back then, I didn't think much of it. I thought maybe he just respected his mom. Then came the next problem, the dress. I wanted a simple, classy dress that wasn't too expensive. But Valentina Sergeyevna insisted on a big, fancy one with crinoline and a ton of lace. "A bride should look like a princess," she kept saying. "And I don't want to look like a cake," I snapped back. She got offended. Kirill walked around moody for 3 days, saying his mom was upset. I finally said to him, "Hey, is this my wedding or your mom's?" "Of course it's yours," he answered, but he didn't sound sure. In the end, I picked my own dress. Simple, beige, and beautiful. But Valentina Sergeyevna kept pushing her opinion until the last minute. Each day, she became more and more controlling. She asked how many guests were coming from my side. She asked what kind of gifts my parents were giving. And she was especially interested in the apartment. One day, she casually asked, "Have you decided who the apartment will be registered to?" I said, "What do you mean?" "It's mine." "Yes, but now you'll be a family," she said. "Maybe it's better to put it in Kirill's name, or at least make it shared property." I just laughed and said, "Why? We're not planning to divorce." She gave me that cold smile again and dropped the topic. But I had a feeling she wasn't done thinking about it. My mom noticed before I did. "Natasha," she said one evening, "don't you think Valentina Sergeyevna is a little too interested in your apartment?" "Mom, come on. She just wants to know where her son will live." "Knowing is one thing," Mom said. "But why did she ask our neighbor Maria Ivanovna about us?"
"What?"
"What did she ask?" "Everything. She asked everything, how much my dad earns, if we had any debts, how we bought the apartment. Maria Ivanovna, our neighbor, told Mom about it. She seemed like a strange woman, she said. I brushed it off at the time. So what? Maybe she just wanted to know what kind of family her son was marrying into. But Mom's word stuck in my mind. Then 2 weeks before the wedding, something serious happened. I went to Kirill's house to go over the final wedding details. Valentina Sergeyevna was in the kitchen on the phone. I was waiting in the hallway. The door was a little open, and I accidentally overheard her. No, Lita, she said, this girl isn't as simple as she seems. She's too independent, makes all the decisions herself, has her own opinions. Kirill just follows her lead. And their apartment is good, 3 rooms, in a decent area. I'll have to find a way to get her to transfer it to Kirill. My heart skipped a beat. So, I wasn't imagining things. Still, I didn't say anything right away. Maybe I was just being paranoid? Maybe I was just being overprotective? Later, when Kirill and I were alone, I pretended I hadn't heard anything, but I felt uneasy the whole night. The next day, something else happened. Kirill came over after work. We were sitting in the kitchen having tea. My parents were watching TV in the living room. Suddenly he said, like it was no big deal, "Hey, do you want to transfer the apartment to me?" I almost choked on my tea.
What?
Why? Well, to make paperwork easier. You never know what kind of problems could come up. And if I'm the official owner, I can handle everything. Like, with the utilities or the building management. It's just easier when a man handles these things. I looked at him carefully. He looked away. This wasn't your mom's idea, was it?
What? No.
What does Mom have to do with this? He said, annoyed. I thought of it myself. Kirill, I said firmly, the apartment stays in my name. Period. He tried to argue, but I didn't let him. I was firm. He dropped it for now. But it left a bad feeling. My mom was quiet in the living room the whole time. But I knew she had heard everything. She has great hearing. She didn't say anything right away. She decided to wait and watch. Then, a week before the wedding, the third and scariest thing happened. Valentina Sergeyevna came to our house to talk about the final details. Mom offered her tea. They chatted politely about the weather and the wedding. Then she went to the bathroom. Mom stayed behind to clear the table. When Valentina Sergeyevna came back, Mom noticed something strange. She looked too pleased, like she had just done something sneaky and gotten away with it. After she left, Mom decided to check her suspicions. And she was right. In the bathroom trash can, she found crumpled papers. Natasha, she called me, smoothing out the pages. Look at this. I was shocked. They were printouts from the internet, guides on how to transfer property, lists of required documents, sample applications. And all over them were notes written in Valentina Sergeyevna's handwriting. My name, our apartment address. Even an estimate of how much the apartment was worth. What is this? I whispered. This, Mom said with a serious look, means your future mother-in-law is planning to take your apartment from you, before you're even married. My hands were shaking as I flipped through the papers. There were even handwritten notes like, talk to my son after the wedding, push for property transfer, and even detailed calculations of the apartment's value. It was all planned. A full step-by-step plan to take my apartment. Mom, what should I do? Here's what, she said firmly. Tomorrow you go to Kirill. Show him everything. Let him explain himself. And for now, postpone the wedding. But I was in love and naive. I really believed that if Kirill saw what his mom had done, he would be shocked and take my side. I was sure I was the woman he loved. The next day, I went to Kirill with the papers. I showed them to him and told him where Mom found them. At first, he looked surprised, wide-eyed. Then he started making excuses. Natasha, I don't know anything about this. Maybe my mom just wanted to check what documents we might need for getting married. For marriage? I said, not believing him. Kirill, this is a plan to re-register my apartment in your name. Maybe she was just being prepared, just in case. In case we want to change something later. I stared at him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was he really this clueless? Or just pretending? Kirill, I said slowly, Your mother is planning to take my apartment. Do you understand that? Not take, he said weakly. Oh, maybe she just wants everything to be properly done, Kirill said. Properly? For who? I asked. He went quiet, and that's when I knew he understood. Maybe not every detail, but he knew the main idea. You knew, I said. You didn't ask for it, but you didn't stop it either. Natasha, what are you saying? Mom's just worried about us. About the future. No, she's worried about the apartment. Admit it. We had a fight. I left, angry and upset. When I got home, Mom met me at the door. Well, she asked. He's making excuses, I said. Says his mom was just asking questions. Just in case. Mom shook her head. Natasha, she said, a man who can't protect his woman from his own mother isn't a real man. He's a mama's boy. But I still had hope. I thought maybe we'd figure it out after the wedding. I'd talk to Valentina Sergeyevna, explain that the apartment is mine, and it stays that way. How naive I was. 3 days before the wedding, Kirill came over with a big bouquet of roses and an apology. Forgive me, darling, he said. I talked to Mom. She said she was just worried about our future. She won't collect any more papers. I wanted to believe him. I really did. Do you promise? I asked. Of course I promise. She loves you and just wants the best for us. Mom was in the room and heard the whole thing. She just snorted. Dad gave me a look and slowly shook his head. But I was stubborn. The wedding was already planned. Guests were invited. The restaurant was booked. It felt crazy to cancel everything over suspicions. The night before the wedding, Mom and I had another talk. Natasha, she said, I'm warning you. If Valentina tries anything tomorrow, don't stay quiet. Stand your ground. Mom, what could she possibly do? In front of all the guests. She will, Mom said. She's counting on you being too embarrassed to respond. I hugged her. Don't worry, Mom. Everything will be fine. But she was still worried. And in the end, she was right. On the morning of the wedding, as I was getting dressed, Mom looked at me and said, Remember, you're a strong and smart girl. Don't let anyone humiliate you. Not your husband. Not your mother-in-law. Mommy, why are you expecting something bad? Not something bad, she said. I'm just getting you ready for the truth. The truth is, if someone wants to take what's most important to you, they are not your friend. I didn't realize back then how true my mom's words would be. When we went to the registry office, Zags, I was full of joy. I thought, this is it, a new life begins. My beloved husband was by my side, and our future felt bright. At the registry office, Valentina Sergeyevna acted perfectly. She smiled, said kind words, even hugged me. But I didn't notice her leaning over to read the documents very closely as the Zags employee filled them out. After the ceremony, we went to the restaurant, the Golden Swan, a fancy place in the city center. Everything looked beautiful, classy, and festive. Guests arrived, congratulated us, gave gifts. My parents gave us a set of silverware and an envelope with money. Kirill's parents gave a dinner set and also an envelope. Everything seemed great. The music was playing. Guests were laughing, giving toasts. I finally relaxed and started to enjoy the celebration. But my mom didn't relax. She was watching Valentina Sergeyevna closely, and she noticed things no one else did. She saw how my mother-in-law looked at Kirill, how they exchanged glances, how she leaned over and whispered something to him, and how he nodded back. Natasha, Mom whispered to me when she came close. They're planning something. Be ready. Mom, you're imagining things, I said. But she shook her head. I know this kind of woman. She's about to do something. And she was right. After most of the toasts and congratulations were done, Valentina Sergeyevna stood up and asked for the microphone. The host smiled and handed it to her. Dear guests, she began. Today is a very special day for our family. I smiled, not suspecting that in a few minutes, my whole life would change. I want to say a few words about how important it is to start married life the right way, she said. I felt Mom tense beside me. She gently squeezed my hand under the table. Because marriage isn't just about love. Valentina Sergeyevna continued. It's also about responsibility, especially when it comes to money and property. A cold feeling hit my chest. She kept talking, her words getting closer and closer to the real reason she stood up. I looked at Kirill. He had his eyes down and said nothing. And then it hit me. No matter what his mother said now, he was going to agree with her. Because he always did. Because deep down he wanted the same thing. Mom had been right all along. And what was about to happen was going to change everything. That morning, it had started raining. Mom had said it earlier, thankfully. Dad just shook his head and mumbled something about bad signs. I was nervous like any bride would be, but I was happy. I thought, this is it, the most important day of my life. If only I knew how it would really end. By 9 a.m., the rain had stopped and the sun came out. Mom helped me with my hair, and Dad was ironing his suit. Our apartment was full of excitement and wedding prep. Natasha, Mom said while braiding my hair, remember what I told you yesterday. Be ready for anything. Mom, come on, I sighed. Today is my big day. Don't make me expect something bad. But she kept going. Sweetheart, I know how women are. Valentina is up to something. And Kirill, he's not as innocent as he seems. I waved it off. I didn't want anything to ruin the moment. My dress fit perfectly. I looked beautiful. Kirill even texted me in the morning. Can't wait for you to be my wife. At 10:30, white cars with ribbons and flowers pulled up. Neighbors came out onto their balconies to see the bride. I waved and smiled. I felt like a princess. Valentina Sergeyevna met us at the registry office, Zags. She wore a formal burgundy suit, looking serious and important. She hugged me and kissed my cheek. You look so beautiful, my daughter, she said sweetly. Kirill held my hand tightly. He looked more nervous than me. His hands were shaking, and his voice was trembling. Everything will be fine, I whispered to him. Of course, he replied, but he didn't look me in the eyes. While we were waiting for our turn, something else happened. The fourth strange moment. Valentina Sergeyevna walked over to the front desk where a Zags employee was sitting. She quietly started asking questions. At first, I didn't pay attention. I thought she was just checking some paperwork. But Mom noticed, like always. She moved closer and overheard the conversation. Tell me, please, Valentina Sergeyevna asked, after the marriage is registered, what documents are needed to transfer a property? From the wife's name to the husband's. The Zags worker looked confused. Why transfer it? If one person owned the property before marriage, it stays their personal property. Yes, Valentina said. But it can be transferred, right? Voluntarily. Well, yes, the worker said, but only with the owner's full agreement, like through a gift contract or a sale. Mom heard the whole conversation. When Valentina Sergeyevna walked away, Mom came over to me. Natasha, she said, your mother-in-law is already asking how to transfer your apartment to Kirill. My heart dropped. Mom, maybe it's nothing? I tried to say. She's not just asking, she's already taking real steps, Mom said. But before I could react, our names were called, and we walked into the ceremonial hall. The ceremony started with beautiful words about love, loyalty, and understanding. I looked at Kirill and tried to stay calm, trying not to think about what Mom had just told me. As we exchanged rings, I noticed Valentina Sergeyevna looking at Kirill. It wasn't just a glance, it was something strange. A look of understanding, almost like a secret agreement. After the ceremony, we went to the park for photos and then headed to the restaurant. The Golden Swan looked stunning. White tablecloths, crystal chandeliers, fresh flowers. Guests were already arriving. My friends and coworkers, Dad's friends from work, Mom's fellow teachers. On Kirill's side, his friends from university and work, and Valentina's colleagues from the accounting department. Everything looked beautiful and felt festive. The host announced our entrance. Music played. People clapped and cheered. Toasts began for love, for the couple, for a happy life together. I finally relaxed a bit. I danced with Kirill, smiled, talked to guests, and accepted congratulations. But Mom didn't relax at all. She kept her eyes on Valentina Sergeevna and Kirill, watching their glances, their whispers. After the main course, the host invited anyone who wanted to say a toast. My dad stood up first. Then one of Valentina's coworkers spoke. Everyone said kind, heartfelt things. Then Valentina Sergeevna stood up. "May I say a few words?" she asked the host. "Of course," he said. "The groom's mother has the floor." She stood, adjusted her suit, and took the microphone. That same cold smile appeared on her face, the one I had started to dislike long ago. But for now, it seemed normal. The groom's mother just wanted to give a speech. Nothing strange about that, or so I thought. "Dear guests, dear newlyweds," she began. "Today is truly a special day for our family." I smiled and nodded politely. Kirill sat beside me, but I noticed something. He wouldn't look at his mother. Kirill kept staring at his plate, nervously twisting his wedding ring. Family life isn't just romance and emotions. His mother went on. It's also about responsibility and properly organizing everyday matters. I saw my mom at the next table tense up. Her fists were clenched on her lap. "It's especially important," Valentina continued, "to clearly divide responsibilities and property." That's when I felt something was wrong. What property? What does this have to do with a wedding speech? And since the husband is the head of the family, she said loudly, he should be the one making all major decisions, especially about finances. Some of the guests glanced at each other. It was a weird toast. But Valentina kept going, and with every word, it became more obvious where she was headed. "So, I want to clear up something very important right now." My mom stood up from her seat. I could see it in her face. She was bracing for the worst. And then the fifth twist. While Valentina was still speaking, I got a text. It was from Dima, Kirill's friend, sitting just one table away. Which was strange. Why not just come talk to me? I opened the message and froze. "Natasha, I'm sorry. You need to know. Yesterday, Kirill told us you and his mom had agreed to transfer the apartment to him after the wedding. We thought you were okay with it. But looking at your face, I can see you had no idea." My hands started to shake. So, Kirill didn't just know about his mother's plan.
He was part of it.
He had lied to me. I looked at him. He still wouldn't look at me. That's when I realized. He knew exactly what his mom was about to say. And he didn't stop it. Worse, he agreed with it. "Kirill," I whispered, "is this true? You knew your mom planned to take my apartment." He finally looked up. There was guilt in his eyes. But no regret. Only irritation, like he was mad the truth came out. "Natasha, what are you saying?" "We're not trying to take it," he mumbled. "It's just for order." "What kind of order?" I snapped, boiling inside. And then Valentina said the words that made the sixth and final twist happen. With a calm, cold look on her face, she said, "Of course it's nice that your parents gave you an apartment. But now you must sign it over to my son. Because in our family, only the man owns the property." Then she added, "And if you dare say no, divorce." The entire room went silent. Guests froze, still holding their glasses in the air, not believing what they'd just heard. Some guests looked at each other. Others looked straight at me, waiting to see what I'd do. But I just sat there, frozen, like I'd been struck by lightning.
So this was it.
This whole wedding, the smiles, the kind words, it was all just a setup, a way to trap me in front of everyone, to push me into giving away my apartment. But what hit me the hardest was Kirill's reaction. He didn't defend me. He didn't even look surprised. He just nodded, like a well-behaved son. "Kirill," I said, my voice shaking, "do you agree with this?" He looked at me, then at his mother, then back at me. And he nodded again. "Natasha," he said calmly, "Mom's right. I'm your husband now. That means I'm the man of the house. The man should be in charge of everything, even the property." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was the man I had just married. The man I loved. The man I thought I could trust. "Are you serious?" I whispered. Valentina Sergeevna cut in. Don't make a big deal out of this, she said. You're one family now. It doesn't matter who owns what. If it doesn't matter, I said, then why do you want to re-register the apartment? Because that's how it's done in decent families. She snapped. The room went quiet. Guests started whispering. Some looked at me with pity. Others shook their heads in judgment. This was no longer a wedding.
It was a disaster.
I looked around, desperate for support. My parents sat there, pale and stunned. Dad's fists were clenched tight. Mom was breathing hard. Mom, I called softly. She stood up slowly, calmly, and walked toward our table. She held out her hand for the microphone. Valentina Sergeevna didn't want to give it, but she had no choice. May I say a few words too? Mom asked. Silence filled the room. Everyone waited. Mom looked at Valentina, then at Kirill, then at me. Her eyes were full of cold fury, quiet, sharp, and unshakable. At my daughter's wedding, Mom said into the microphone. Her mother-in-law stood up and said, It's nice your parents gave you an apartment, but now you should sign it over to my son, because in our family, only men own property. And if you say no, divorce. She looked directly at Kirill. And what did her husband do? Mom continued. He nodded. Then Mom paused. The whole room was silent. No one even breathed. And then Mom said just 2 words. Get out. Her voice was calm, but powerful, like a slap. Get out of our celebration, she said, even louder now. Then she pointed at Kirill. You too. Mom pointed straight at Valentina Sergeevna. If you think you can treat my daughter like this, you're very wrong. Kirill turned white as a sheet. Natasha, please say something, he begged. I looked at him. This man who had just nodded when his mother demanded my apartment. This grown man who couldn't protect his own wife. What do you want me to say? I asked. That I'm okay with becoming your mother's puppet? That I'll just hand over everything I've worked for, just because she says so? Natasha, sweetheart, Valentina Sergeevna tried to jump in. We're not your enemies.
We're family now.
No, I snapped. We are not a family. A real family respects each other. A real family protects each other. You want to steal from me? Steal, she gasped. No one is stealing. We just want to keep things in order. I don't want your version of order. I stood up. The room went silent. People stared, some with sympathy, some with judgment, some just frozen in shock at the drama unfolding. Natasha, please sit down. Kirill tried again. We'll talk calmly at home. Home. I laughed bitterly. You mean the home you're trying to take from me? We're not taking anything. Oh no? What would you call it then? Taking someone's property without permission. Kirill said nothing. He knew he'd been caught. And Valentina, seeing that her plan had fallen apart, switched tactics. Well, aren't you fiery? She said with a fake smile. I suppose we should have known. You're clearly not one of us. You wanted to pretend to be nice, I said. But this was blackmail. In front of everyone. Blackmail? Don't be dramatic. We were just explaining how to do things properly. Properly for you, I shot back. At that moment, my mom walked up and gently put her arm around me. Natasha, she said, get your things. We're leaving. Leaving? Kirill said, confused. I don't understand. This is our wedding. It was your wedding, Mom said coldly. Now it's over. Then she turned to the guests. Dear friends, she said clearly, the celebration is over. Thank you for coming. As for these two, she pointed at Kirill and Valentina. They can go find someone else to trick. Several of my friends stood up from their tables in support. My dad's friends, tough, working-class men, exchanged angry glances. Mom's co-workers just shook their heads in disbelief. No one tried to stop us. This was a family matter, and they respected our decision. Meanwhile, Kirill's side sat in stunned silence. Some looked away in embarrassment. Others looked at each other and quietly shook their heads. It was clear. Many of them were just as shocked and just as disgusted by what Valentina Sergeevna had tried to do. Natasha, stop. Kirill shouted. jumping up from the table. Let's talk. Please, calmly. I turned around. Talk.
About what?
About how you betrayed me on the most important day of our lives. About how you nodded when your mom demanded I give her my apartment. I didn't betray you. I just what? Just agreed with your mother? Just decided your wife should give up the only home she has.
What are you talking about?
We were going to live there together. Oh, really? So, this isn't about keeping things in order. This is about making sure I become completely dependent on you. Kirill's face changed. He knew he'd said too much. He looked panicked and confused. Natasha, sweetheart, what's going on? Valentina Sergeyevna tried to step in again. We're only thinking about your future. Your well-being. My well-being? I laughed. You think taking away my only property is helping me? We're not taking it. We're putting it in safe hands.
Whose safe hands?
Yours? Or your son's? The same man who's ready to strip me of everything 5 minutes after the wedding? This was turning ridiculous.
It was obvious now.
Valentina Sergeyevna didn't even understand that what she was doing was wrong. She actually believed it was normal, that a daughter-in-law should be controlled and made completely dependent. And Kirill? He was just scared. He'd been afraid of his mother all his life. And even now that his marriage was falling apart, he still couldn't stand up to her. You know what, Kirill? I said. I took off my wedding ring. If you can't choose between your mother and your wife, then go ahead and choose your mother. You two deserve each other. Natasha, what are you doing? He said, horrified. What I should have done before the wedding. I placed the ring on the table. Kirill grabbed my hand. Wait. Let's talk. Maybe we can fix this. Fix what? Find some sneaky way to get around your mom? Hope she suddenly stops interfering? Kirill, you know she won't stop. Today it's the apartment. Tomorrow it'll be something else. We'll set boundaries, he insisted. We? You've never set a single boundary with her in 28 years. You won't suddenly start now. He knew I was right. Valentina Sergeyevna had always been the one in charge. She picked his school, his friends, even who he should marry. And I was just another part of her plan to control him. You know what? Kirill said suddenly. My mom's right. The apartment should be mine. I'm the man. I'm supposed to be responsible for the family. I looked at him, not with anger, but with pity. Even now, when everything was falling apart, he still couldn't break free from her control. Then do it, I said quietly. Be responsible, but do it without me. I turned to the guests. Dear friends, I'm sorry for ruining your celebration, but I hope this is a lesson to all of you. Check your grooms and their mothers before the wedding, not after. Some guests laughed quietly. Some whispered to each other, but most just looked at me with sympathy and understanding. My dad stood up from the table. Natasha, let's go home. Yes, Dad. Let's go. My parents and I walked toward the exit. All our guests, friends, co-workers, relatives, the ones on my side, followed us. Kirill ran after us. Natasha, please stop. Don't leave like this. I turned to him one last time. Oh, I can. And I should. Go back to your mommy. She can find you a new bride. Just make sure to tell her up front to sign over all her property to you. Natasha. Valentina Sergeyevna called out. Don't do something you'll regret. Think about the future. I am thinking, I said. And I know I have no future with you. We left the restaurant. Outside, the sun was shining. It was warm and calm. I took a deep breath. For the first time in days, I felt free. Well done, daughter, my mom said, hugging me. You made the right choice. And I was about to throw them out myself, Dad added. I'm proud you didn't wait for us. You figured it out on your own. We got into the car and went home. To my apartment, which was still mine. As we drove, I watched the city go by. Streets, buildings, people, life going on as usual. But for me, one part of my life had ended, and a new one had just begun. A life without Kirill. A life without his controlling mother. A life where I make my own choices and take care of myself. My phone didn't stop buzzing, calls and messages nonstop. Kirill wrote to me. He begged me to come back, said he'd fix everything. Even Valentina Sergeevna called. Sometimes she threatened me, other times she tried to be sweet. I turned off my phone. At home we sat quietly and had tea, each of us lost in thought. Do you regret anything? Mom asked me gently. No, I said. I only regret not doing this sooner. What now? She asked. Now, divorce and a new life. Mom nodded in agreement. A man who can't protect his wife from his own mother isn't a man at all. Dad didn't say anything, but I could see it in his eyes.
He was proud of me.
Proud that his daughter stood up for herself and didn't let anyone treat her like she was less. That evening, I changed into my home clothes, took off my wedding makeup, let my hair down, and looked at myself in the mirror. In the morning, I was a married woman, I thought. And now, I'm free again. Strangely, I didn't feel sad. I felt relieved, like a heavy weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Tomorrow, I'd start the divorce process. Tomorrow, I'd start my life over. And let Kirill live with his mommy. They're perfect for each other. On Monday morning, I woke up in my own bed, in my own apartment, in my life. It was strange. Everything looked the same, but everything felt different. Just 3 days ago, I was someone's wife. Now I was single again. I kept my phone turned off since Sunday night. I didn't want to hear Kirill's messages or apologies. At breakfast, Mom asked, "How are you, sweetheart? Do you regret anything?" "No," I said. "Today I'm going to a lawyer to file for divorce." "Good," said Dad. "The sooner the better." At the legal office, they explained everything to me. Since we had no children and no shared property, the process would be simple. 1 month, and I'd be free. What if he doesn't want a divorce? I asked. The lawyer chuckled. After what happened at that wedding, he won't dare fight it. I filed the paperwork that same day. I finally felt at peace. I wasn't just worrying anymore, I was doing something. Kirill found out about the divorce 2 days later. He showed up at my job, looking messy, nervous, and desperate. "Natasha, what are you doing?" "This is crazy," he said. "No," I replied calmly, without even looking up from my computer. "Crazy was marrying you." "Please," he said. "We can fix this. I'll talk to my mom." "Then go talk to her. Just don't include me." He stayed in the office lobby all day, begging to meet after work. I refused. Even my boss supported me. "If he keeps bothering you," she said, "we'll call security." A week after the wedding disaster, the 7th twist happened. A woman around 40 came to our apartment. "Are you Natasha?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I'm Svetlana," she said. "I recently married Kirill Vasilyev." "You got married and divorced quickly?" I joked. She smiled. "No, not to Kirill. I was married to his brother, Maxim." I was surprised. Kirill had never even mentioned a brother. "Can I come in?" the woman asked. "I have something to tell you about Valentina Sergeevna." We sat in the kitchen and had some tea. Svetlana turned out to be a kind, smart woman, calm and honest. "Maxim is 5 years older than Kirill," she began. "He's Valentina's son from her first marriage. Kirill is his half-brother, but they barely talk. Maxim and I got married 6 years ago, back when he still lived in the city. And do you know what happened 1 month after the wedding?" "I think I can guess," I said. "Exactly," she nodded. "Valentina demanded that I transfer my apartment to Maxim. She said the same thing she told you, that in their family, only men own property." "What did you do?" I asked. At first I said no, but then she started pressuring me, talking behind my back, turning Maxim against me, even convincing my relatives I married for money. And Maxim? He was weak, just like Kirill. He mumbled things like, "This is just how our family does things. Mom knows best." As I listened, I felt chills. It was the same story, the exact same plan. "In the end, I gave in," Svetlana continued. "I thought, what's the big deal? We live together anyway." I signed the papers and gave him the apartment. And then, I asked already knowing the answer. 6 months later, Valentina found another woman for him. Some rich businesswoman with 2 apartments. She convinced him that I wasn't good enough. And he divorced you. Yes, she nodded. And he kept the apartment. I had to move back in with my parents. I sat in silence, shocked. So this wasn't just a pushy mother-in-law. It was a full-on scheme. She's hunting for women with apartments, I said. It's a scam. Of course it is, Svetlana said. But legally, it looks clean. The wife chooses to give the apartment to her husband, and then he chooses to file for divorce. Nothing illegal, but it's cruel. She looked at me with genuine warmth. You were smart to stand up for yourself. If you hadn't, you'd be in the same mess I was. After she left, I sat there, stunned. So that's what they had planned for me. A well-practiced, heartless trick. And I thought it was just a pushy mother being annoying. Mom listened to everything I told her. She shook her head. What a bunch of vultures, she muttered. Running a whole scam on other people's homes. Good thing you didn't fall for it. Yeah, I said. Otherwise, I'd be homeless right now. 2 weeks after I filed for divorce, the 8th twist happened. Kirill showed up at my work again. This time he looked different, still nervous, but now more serious. Natasha, he said, I need to talk to you. Make it quick, I replied. I was wrong. I see that now. Mom went too far. I should have stood up for you. Let's try again. Let's make peace. I stared at him, thinking hard. There was no love in Kirill's eyes, just a kind of sadness or defeat. Kirill, I asked, do you really want this? Or did your mom tell you to come here again? Of course I came on my own, he said quickly. Then why do you look like someone doing something they don't want to do? He blushed and looked away. That's when I understood. He didn't come back out of love. There was something else going on. Just tell me the truth, I said. Did Valentina Sergeyevna find you another bride already? Kirill flinched, like I had hit the truth exactly. What does a new bride have to do with anything? He muttered. You look like a guy who messed up his big chance, I said. He hesitated, then blurted it out. My mom introduced me to a woman. Her name is Inga. She's 35, divorced, owns a 2-bedroom apartment in the city center. I raised an eyebrow. And she's worse than my mom, he admitted. She told me right away, if I marry her, I'll follow her rules. She's the boss. She makes all the decisions. And how did Valentina react to that? They started fighting. Each one wanted control. Inga told my mom she'd only see the grandkids once a month, no more. I nearly laughed out loud. A power struggle between 2 queens, his controlling mother and his new would-be controlling wife. So, what happened? I asked. Inga said my mom was too full of herself. And my mom told me she'd never let me marry a woman like that. And you? I asked. He looked at me and said quietly, it was easier with you. At least you were kind. And there it was. The real reason he came back. Not because he loved me, but because I was easy, forgiving, convenient. I looked at him calmly and said, go back to your mother, Kirill. Let her find you a 3rd bride. Or a 4th. Natasha, please. I'll change. You won't change. I cut him off. You don't even understand what you did wrong. He tried to speak, but I turned and walked away. I was done explaining basic things to a grown man. 1 month later, the divorce was finalized. It was quick and clean, no drama. Kirill came in, signed the papers with a gloomy face, and left without a word. I felt relief. The chapter was finally closed. But the biggest surprise came later. 2 months after the divorce, I was getting my life back on track. Working, meeting friends, going to the gym, even dating again. Then one evening, my phone rang. A woman I didn't know. Hello. Are you Natasha? Kirill Vasiliev's ex-wife. Yes, I am. Who's this? My name is Elena Petrovna, she said. I work at a bank. I need to meet with you, the woman said. It's about Valentina Sergeyevna and her son. The next day, we met at a cafe. Elena Petrovna was around 50 years old, serious and professional. I work at a bank, she said. I'm a loan officer. And I know that Valentina Sergeyevna and Kirill are in serious financial trouble. What do you mean? I asked. They have massive debts. Loans, interest, unpaid bills. Together, they owe over 2 million rubles. I nearly choked on my coffee. 2 million?
But how?
Valentina's a chief accountant. Kirill has a job too. Yes, they both work, but they live way beyond their means. Valentina acts like she's rich, expensive restaurants, vacations abroad, designer clothes, but it's all on credit. Kirill's the same. He bought his car and even his apartment on loans. So they're drowning in debt, just trying to look successful. Exactly, she nodded. And your apartment. It was their way out. My stomach turned. So, you're telling me they weren't just planning to take my apartment, they were planning to sell it? Yes, she said. They needed to pay off their debts. But, how do you know all this? Kirill came to our bank, she explained. He tried to take out a loan using his apartment as collateral. He said he would soon own a 3-room apartment in a great area. When was this? A month before your wedding. I just sat there, stunned. So they planned everything. The wedding, the pressure to sign over my apartment, the plan to sell it. It was all a setup to fix their financial mess. And how are they now? I asked. Still in trouble, she said. The banks are demanding payments. If they don't come up with money soon, they'll start seizing property. I sat in silence, trying to process everything. Kirill didn't marry me for love. He married me for my apartment. Everything, his sweet words, his kindness, the proposal, it was all fake. Why are you telling me this? I asked quietly. Because I think people deserve to know the truth, she said. Especially when they've been tricked like that. After we spoke, I walked around the city for a long time. Suddenly, everything made sense. The way Kirill suddenly entered my life. His non-stop attention. How quickly he proposed. Even the fancy wedding at the Golden Swan, it wasn't about celebration. It was to impress people before springing the trap. That night, I told my parents everything. My mom shook her head. What a bunch of snakes. They planned the whole thing like a mission, my dad added. Good thing we saw through it in time. A week later, Kirill showed up at my work again. This time, he looked terrible, pale, tired, unshaven, his clothes wrinkled. Natasha, he said. Please help me. Help you how? Just lend me a little money. Maybe 200,000. I laughed. 200,000 is a little to you? Okay, anything.
Just something, he begged.
We're in a really bad situation, Kirill said. I know about your situation, I replied. I know why you needed my apartment. His face went pale. Who told you? It doesn't matter, I said. What matters is that now I know the truth. Kirill lowered his head. Natasha, I didn't want things to go like this. Mom made me do it. She said it was the only way to get out of debt. So, you agreed to marry me just to use me for money? I thought maybe later we'd really fall in love, he mumbled. I felt disgusted. Even now, he didn't see how awful his actions were. Kirill, get out, I said coldly. And don't ever come back. But Natasha, we loved each other once.
No.
I loved you. You just acted like you did to get what you wanted. He left with his head down. That was the last time I saw him. A month later, I saw a news headline. Chief accountant accused of stealing company money. It was Valentina Sergeyevna. She had tried to fix her financial mess by taking money from her workplace and got caught. Later, I found out they had to sell their apartment to pay off debts. Kirill and his mother moved into a tiny one-room place on the edge of the city. Justice had been served. But I didn't feel happy, just relieved. Relieved that I had learned the truth in time. A year passed since that awful wedding day. I focused on my job, went on a few dates, but nothing serious. My trust in people had been broken. My friends told me to move on and look for love again, but I wasn't in a rush. I needed time to heal, to figure out how to never fall into a trap like that again. One spring evening, I was home reading when someone rang the doorbell. I opened the door. A young woman, about 20, stood there. She was pretty, but looked nervous. Are you Natasha? She asked. The one who was married to Kirill Vasilyev? I was, I said. Who are you? My name is Oksana, she replied. I'm engaged to him. My heart dropped. He was doing it again?
Come in, I said.
We sat in the living room. Oksana kept fidgeting with her purse. Kirill told me about you, she said. He said you divorced him over something small, that it was just a silly fight. But something didn't feel right. So I searched your name online, found your address, and came here. Why did you divorce him? She asked. So I told her everything. About the wedding. About his mother's demand for my apartment.
About the debts.
And how they had planned everything from the beginning. Oksana sat there quietly, turning pale. At the end, I asked gently, Do you own your home? Yes, she nodded. It's a 2-room apartment. My parents gave it to me. Then please stay away from them, I said. Or the same thing will happen to you. She nodded slowly. Thank you for telling me the truth, she whispered. I already felt like something was wrong, she said. Valentina keeps asking about my apartment, saying I should do things properly. It's not too late to walk away, I told her. I will, she said. And I believed her. Oksana left, and I never saw her again. But later, I heard through friends that the wedding never happened. She realized the truth just in time. 6 more months passed. My life slowly got back to normal. I got a new job with a better salary and a great team. I signed up for English classes and started doing yoga. I wasn't in a rush to start a new relationship. I dated a few men, but I didn't get serious with anyone. After everything that happened with Kirill, I became more careful with people. Sometimes Mom would ask, Natasha, don't you think it's time to settle down? The clock's ticking. Mom, I would say, it's better to be alone than with the wrong man. You're right, she'd say. But not all men are bad. I know, but the good ones are hard to find. One autumn day, a year and a half after the divorce, I ran into Kirill on the street. He was walking with a woman around 40. Her clothes were simple but clean. When Kirill saw me, he tried to turn away, but it was too late. I had already seen him.
Hi, I said.
How are you? Fine, he mumbled. Aren't you going to introduce me? The woman looked at me, curious. This is Tatiana, Kirill said awkwardly. And this is my ex-wife. Tatiana gave me a small nod. She looked tired, worn out, and in her eyes, I saw something I remembered well. Quiet sadness. Are you two married? I asked. Yes, for 6 months now, Tatiana replied. Kirill tugged on her sleeve. Let's go, he said. We're in a hurry. They quickly walked away. I stood there, watching them go, thinking, did he fool someone again? Poor Tatiana probably has no idea what she's gotten into. A few days later, my curiosity got the better of me. I searched for Tatiana on social media and found her. She worked as a store clerk, was divorced, and had a child from her first marriage. She lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment she had gotten after her divorce. I messaged her. I introduced myself and told her my story. She didn't reply right away, but later we started chatting. We talked a lot. Turns out, Valentina Sergeyevna hadn't changed. She had already started suggesting to Tatiana that they sell the apartment to buy something bigger. Because, according to her, the child has no room to play. I won't sell it, Tatiana wrote. It's the only thing I have. What does Kirill say? I asked. He agrees with his mom, she replied. He says a man should control the family's property. It was all happening again. Only this time, the victim wasn't me. It was Tatiana. I thought hard about whether I should get involved. It wasn't really my business, but I felt bad for her. In the end, I decided to tell her everything. About the debts, about how they tried to take my apartment, about how they tricked women over and over. At first, Tatiana didn't believe me, but then she started looking into it. A week later, she messaged me. You were right. I found some documents. Kirill already applied for a loan, using my apartment as collateral. Tomorrow, I'm filing for divorce. Another woman escaped the Vasilyev family, but I kept wondering how many more women might become victims like me. 2 years passed since my failed wedding. Life had become peaceful, stable, and calm. I no longer dreamed of a prince on a white horse or built fantasies in my head. I just lived my life, worked, enjoyed small things, and appreciated the quiet. Sometimes I went on dates, but I wasn't too excited about them. Deep down, there was always fear. What if I get fooled again? What if the love turns out to be fake again? My friends would tell me, not every man is like Kirill. You're being too cautious. I agreed with them, but I couldn't help how I felt. One cold winter evening, I got a call from an unknown number. Hello, is this Natasha? Yes. My name is Andre. I'm a journalist. I'm working on a story about marriage fraud. Your situation with Kirill Vasilyev came up in my investigation. We later met in person. Andre told me he was researching family fraud schemes. He explained that what happened with Valentina Sergeyevna and her son wasn't a one-time thing. There are several similar cases, he said. Usually they involve single men who marry just to take property. But family operations like the Vasilyevs are more rare, but they do happen. Why doesn't anyone stop them? I asked. It's hard, he said. On paper, everything looks legal. The woman gives her property to her husband voluntarily, and then gets left with nothing. Your story is different, he added. You didn't fall for it. You stood up for yourself. That's rare. When Andre's article came out in a big magazine, my story was one of the main examples. They changed the names, but the message was clear. After the article was published, I received messages from dozens of women. Each one had a similar story. A man came into their lives, acted loving, proposed quickly, and then started pressuring them to transfer their apartment or house. Some women gave in, believing it was real love, and ended up with nothing. One woman wrote, "Thank you for your story. It helped me see what was really happening. I broke off the engagement before it was too late." Another woman wrote, "I wish I'd read this 2 years ago. Maybe I wouldn't have lost my home." Reading their messages, I realized something important. Sometimes being honest, even when it's painful or embarrassing, can help others avoid the same trap. Our messy, public scandal helped save real people. Now 3 years have passed. I'm still single, and honestly, I'm happy with it. I don't feel lonely. I have my parents, my friends, and a job I enjoy. And I'm in no rush when it comes to relationships. Sometimes I think, what if I had said yes at the wedding? What if I had given in, signed the apartment over to Kirill, and believed all that talk about family traditions? Most likely, 6 months later, he would have found some excuse to divorce me. I'd be left with nothing. No home, no money, and no trust. But instead, I still have everything I had before I met him, plus something more valuable, experience, and a clear understanding of what I'll never allow in my life again. Sometimes Mom asks me, "Do you ever regret not starting a family back then?" And I answer, "Mom, that wasn't a chance for a family. It was a trap, a setup by scammers." Sure, not all men are like that. I know. But now I've learned how to spot the signs early. I notice the little things I used to ignore. If a man starts talking too soon about serious commitment, if he asks about my money, if he's too tied to his mother or lets her control him, that's a red flag. Maybe it sounds overly cautious to some people, but I'd rather be alone than with someone who sees me not as a woman to love, but as someone to use. Not long ago, I saw Valentina Sergeyevna at a store. She looked different, older, tired, more humble. When she noticed me, she tried to hide behind the counter, but I'd already seen her. "Hello, Valentina Sergeyevna," I said calmly. She froze for a second, then slowly turned around. Her eyes showed fear and shame. "Natasha, hello," she said quietly. "How are things? How's Kirill?" She paused, then answered softly. "Not good. Kirill got divorced again. Tatiana left him when she found out about the debts. And now we can't find anyone else. Girls run away quickly. I think someone's warning them." I smiled slightly. "Of course they are. Your family story is pretty well known now." "And what about work?" I asked. "Kirill works as a programmer in a small company. The pay is very low."
And I
work here as a part-time cashier." What a twist. The same woman who once wanted to control everything. Now working behind the register in a supermarket. Then she suddenly said, in a soft, pleading voice, "Natasha, please forgive us. Back then we were so deep in debt. We didn't know what to do. We weren't thinking straight." I looked her in the eye and said, "Valentina Sergeyevna, if you had just come to me and asked for help, I might have considered it. But instead, you tried to trick me and steal from me." "I understand," she said, "but we didn't mean to hurt you. Whether you meant to or not, the result is the same," I replied. "You wanted to leave me without a home." She didn't say anything. What could she say? Facts are facts. "And your debts?" I asked. "We're slowly paying them off," she said. "It'll take 5 years, maybe more." I nodded and turned to leave. At the checkout counter, Valentina Sergeyevna looked up and said, "Tell Kirill to live honestly and work honestly. Maybe then he'll find happiness." I nodded. She didn't even look me in the eye. Outside, I took a deep breath of cold air. I didn't feel happy or proud, just a bit sad. They ruined their own lives because of greed and lies. But I didn't pity them either. Everyone got what they deserved. That evening, I told my parents about the meeting over tea.
"They got what was coming," Dad said.
"They tried to steal from someone else and lost everything themselves. I even feel a little sorry for them," Mom added. "But they brought it on themselves." I just shrugged. That's life. Some people learn from others' mistakes. Some only learn after making their own. And some never learn at all. 6 months passed. Then one evening, I got a call from Svetlana, the same ex-daughter-in-law who once warned me about Valentina Sergeyevna. "Natasha, I have news," she said, excited. "Maxim called." "Your ex-husband? What did he want?" "To apologize and give me back the apartment." I almost dropped the phone. "What do you mean, give it back?" She explained. All these years, he was feeling guilty. Recently, he got divorced again from that rich woman. She took everything. But the apartment he got from me? He sold it and bought a smaller one. Now, he's transferring it back to me. Not what I lost, but still something. "What a twist," I said. "So justice does exist." "Yes," Svetlana said, though it came too late. "Still, it feels good to know he regrets it." After that call, I kept thinking about how strange life is. Sometimes justice happens right away. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it never comes at all. But the important thing is never give up, never let yourself be fooled, and never lose faith that good people still exist. Now I'm 31. I live alone in the apartment I almost lost to someone else's greed. I work, travel, and spend time with friends. Sometimes people ask, "Natasha, when are you getting married?" I tell them, when I meet someone who loves me, not what I own. Maybe that'll happen tomorrow. Maybe in a year. Or maybe never. And you know what? That's okay. Because I've learned something important. It's better to be alone and free than to be married to someone who only sees you as a way to get money. I defended my right to live with dignity. I protected my home, my freedom, and my future. Yes, it cost me. I had my heart broken. I lost some dreams. But in the end, it was worth it. A broken heart heals. A ruined life is harder to rebuild. And those illusions I used to have, it's probably for the best they're gone. Now I live in the real world. I can see the difference between love and manipulation, between honesty and lies. My story doesn't have a fairy tale ending. There's no prince, no white dress, no happily ever after. But I gained something better. A lesson that no one can take from me. Don't let anyone control your life. Not even someone you love. And if I do find love again, it will be the love of 2 equal people. No one dominating the other. And if that love never comes, that's okay too. Because I know how to live on my own. With honesty. And with dignity. That's what my failed wedding gave me. A hard lesson, but a valuable one. And no, I don't regret a thing.